why am I dealing with paper receipts? And my roommate sold his car. I took what money I had, and my marketing professor gave me a few $1,000s. And I was like, I'm gonna go solve this receipt problem.
Ivan, I'm excited to continue our conversation now, hearing more about your journey as a leader. 10 years you've been running this business. I imagine it's not been the same as you started out in mind. Yeah. Talk to me about how has it evolved? How has it changed? Tell me about your story.
So my favorite story to tell is actually where I started Spendgo. So it was out of college. My parents would make me fill out expense reports when I spent their money. And I got to do whatever I wanted with my money, but their money, I better get an expense report in before the end of the month so they can approve the charges.
I like that.
And, it was out of that, the Apple Store really brought digital receipts and some e-commerce features in store for the first time. And I was like, why am I dealing with paper receipts? And my roommate sold his car. I took what money I had, and my marketing professor gave me a few $1,000s. And I was like, I'm going to go solve this receipt problem. And built this awesome digital receipt tool, and I was going to, go be Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. And what I found out was, oh shoot, integrating with point of sale systems is really hard. I wish I had done that first. And that was really the inspiration for how we got into creating a patent and solving for the integration problem first. From there, what we found was, some of these features and capabilities just weren't enough on their own. So that's when we pivoted about 4 years ago to being really a marketing solution and marketing company. Early on, we were just trying to figure out the tech and, getting some initial buy-in. But I'd say 4 years ago is really when we said, hey, we're going to be a loyalty marketing engagement company. And I've been seeing a lot of success from there.
Is there any learnings that you can share of being able to scale up and get more clients? Any tactics that you're like, okay, this really worked, that another entrepreneur could learn?
Yeah, so for us, we're on the B2B side. So our tactics are very different than someone who's selling B2C. What we found was relationships and referrals from other folks that people in the organization already trusted made a difference. And it's there's in a B2B sale, it's very similar to fundraising to a degree, right? They want an introduction and somebody who can vouch for you. You have to make a compelling business case. And everyone asks you, well, if Google does it, why would we, what is there stopping Google from doing it, right? And, every customer says, what is to stop XYZ big company and us just using their feature instead of yours? So you kind of always have to make the same pitch and same case. It's very similar in that sense. And no one buys on the first day, right? So a lot of times you're pitching them this year, hoping that next year they're going to say yes. On the SMB front, it really comes down to scaling partners and making sure that your solution is easy for the partner to sell. A lot of times people forget about, oh, this is going to be a great partnership. If only you sold this to X% of your existing customers, you would kill it, right? And, we've really taken the approach of, well, who's that salesperson at this organization calling the customer at the end of the day? And how do we make it compelling for them? How do we make them look good? And that's always how we think about it when we approach a partnership.
Now, your job as the leader is to be able to build the organization that can happen. How is the team evolved? How many team members do you have today?
So we are 15 people that work directly with Spendgo, but the team scales up to about 50 depending on what the requirements are for customers.
Gotcha. Any tips and thoughts that you can share on developing a good team that can execute on this vision?
Yeah, so we're super lucky in that our technical leadership actually started with us in the US, and then they ended up moving overseas. And we're able to open an overseas office with someone that we had a great relationship with someone that we trusted to manage folks. It's really we feel a big differentiator for us because most organizations that hire overseas development, that tends to be looked down upon for us, we haven't found the same drop off of effectiveness. And for us, we have a great relationship between our US development team and our overseas one, because we have a few core people that, really facilitate that communication. And we basically get the advantage of, we're developing 24 hours a day. Like, we're nonstop, because it's just a seamless handoff and transition between the organizations.
Looking forward, what challenges do you see that you're going to need to overcome for continued growth? Maybe even considering these circumstances, and what are your thoughts on that?
In our industry, a lot of it is relationship based, like I said, and it's really hard to build relationships remotely, right? You look like anyone, to a degree, right? You're all reaching out through this computer screen on LinkedIn, and it puts even more onus on referrals and reputation, which, we fortunately built over time, right? And people like us, and, no assholes on our team type of thing. And we've been able to build that. But if you're brand new, I see that as a really big challenge, right? Especially starting a new venture where you have to break through and be trusted against all the other people on the internet coming at the same time, selling to the same person. And, unfortunately, again, it comes down to the relationships and finding the best way to build those.
Communicating now completely remote, you made a good point of seem like everyone else. It's hard to stand out. Any thoughts on kind of tactics that you think are going to work well moving forward to keep those relationships alive in the way you communicate?
Yeah, something I like to use personally is when I notice the brand that I'm engaging with, whether it be a partner or a client, and I notice them do something cool or interesting, I just congratulate them on that, right? Everyone likes to be congratulated about something. And it's not like the BS congratulations you get on LinkedIn invites that are like, oh, I've seen your business do really successful, insert company name here, right? It's more about saying, oh, I saw you launch a blog. That's awesome. Congratulations. Or I really like this piece of content that you published, and reference the content specifically. It's not trying to hack everything, right? And do like just the quick volume game. Especially on the mid-market and enterprise, it's really about standing out and providing something genuine. People can smell through it.
So talking about how you learn as a leader, are there any good books, audiobooks, podcasts that you would recommend or you found has been helpful?
Probably a lot of my reading is probably tied up in more article-based content as opposed to books. It's, finding case studies or examples of people doing something interesting. That's really more the short form factor content is what I found to be effective for me on the reading side. But I still like reading The Economist and all of that to just keep up to date on things. In terms of podcasts, I like to listen to the Startup Chat. It's a great, SaaS podcast. They talk about, different subjects in 15-minute increments, so really digestible. And then you can always dive deeper from there, reading a blog about it or something like that. But it just kind of gets you going and kind of starts the rabbit hole about a subject that you might be interested in.
What kind of tech innovations do you predict we'll see in the near term, next year or so, and in the long term, 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I was really big on augmented reality prior to COVID. But now with people kind of staying at home, it's really interesting how that's kind of flipped the switch to more virtual reality as being kind of what I'm more, aggro about in terms of next steps and engagement. I felt like, people organically like to engage in the real world, right? That would be their preference. And I always kind of felt like the innovations in augmented reality were going to outpace virtual reality. But with people stuck at home, maybe that switches. And with people working from home more often, maybe that switches in terms of which one really progresses, as the kind of dominant engagement form factor. Both are going to exist, right? But, I always felt like augmented technology was going to outpace virtual reality.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.